touching on the top prop bets in NBA today. All right, so taking a look at today's board, we do have a lot of injury news in NBA today. There's 5 games and about 3 of them have significant injury news. We pull up the Cavs. All their starters are going to be out tonight, which should lead to some value out there. For someone like Cedi Osman, he should be a decent one. And then also someone like Isaiah Mobley, Evan Mobley's brother. And so those would be the 2 that I'm looking at to see if we get any props for them. We'll see. Obviously, PrizePicks kind of controls their board. They might not come out with those. And then Portland is still very banged up. Basically, all their players are either game time decisions or out. Skylar Mays is probably someone that we're going to be looking at. Spurs are a little bit banged up, and Utah is still very banged up as well. Now, because of that, we are not getting a fully populated board just yet. And so there are a couple of props I like NBA-wise right now, but I also will be mentioning some that I think will be good props. And currently right now, NHL-wise and MLB-wise, we are getting a couple good props. So typically I don't like to bring up kind of like the previous results from yesterday, but I feel like there's a good example here. And the reason I don't like to do that is because if someone comes in and they see a good day or a bad day, they might not use the information the way that they should, the way that they properly should. So yesterday I kind of had 2 slips. This one, Andrew Nembhard was my favorite bet of the day. I made that pretty clear. And then right after the video came out, John Morant was ruled out, so I mentioned like Jaren Jackson Jr. would be a good prop. Giannis was ruled out, which meant some of the Bucks were good props. And then this one wasn't even available after the video was posted, so luckily enough, you guys weren't able to hit that. It seems like whenever PrizePicks props up a prop that should be bumped up, they miss lately. It's weird. In NHL, it's the weirdest thing that's going on right now. And then Russell Westbrook, I was under the assumption that Eric Gordon would sit last night. He was a game time decision. Seemed like he was more on the favorable to sit. Russell Westbrook only got 21 minutes, but he put up, 26 fantasy points in 21 minutes. I would say thought process was correct there, just missed out. But yesterday I mentioned this game would be a good game to stack. There's a lot of stacking opportunities in this game. This was the slip that I gave out to you guys. Obviously went 5 out of 6. Jordan Nwora couldn't hit a basket, but I did get a couple of messages saying, one in the Discord saying I was able to hit this stack, and probably because they didn't go Nwora, which is so pretty. I'll take that as a content creator. I'll take that day. But that's kind of the thing. This is the point I was trying to make. Right now with the season, it kind of seems like going with these stacks, betting on these games is kind of the way to go, because right now with all the injuries that are occurring, and that is the tough part as well. It's like we can't actually predict injuries too much, or like the playing time as well with those injuries. But because of all those, we are seeing an increase in value in a lot of these players. And so I don't kind of mind that approach of taking some educated guesses on some spots in which we could potentially be getting, a nice little edge if we choose the game stack. So now let's go ahead and get into the MLB props. So looking at right now, like we don't have too much out there. I mean, yes, there's a lot of props out there, but in terms of like favorable props that we are only getting. And so looking at right now, like the best one that we're getting would be Dustin May over 4.5 hits allowed. And that's at -138. So like a decent number there, but we can see, not perfect. I typically like to give out ones that are -140 or better for the most part. And then in terms of like prop line differences here, nothing too significant. Like if you wanted to do the under on, or I guess this would be the over on strikeouts for Chris Sale, we can see the average sportsbook line has set at 6.5, but they basically have that as a push. PrizePicks has set at 6. Like that's not that great. That'd be one you would make just to make. And then let's just look at the under bets where they're not matching up. We can see kind of why they're bumping up at least 3 of these. And this is what PrizePicks does, is they will bump up these props when they feel like they are losing that edge. And so for the most part, MLB wise, there's really only this one that I would feel decent about just given the odds that we have out there. So let's switch up and get into NHL. Oh, and by the way, I think today's the day that I might be adding in the fantasy score props for at least pitching today. We'll see. My goal is to get that updated by the end of the week, is to have fantasy score props in this cheat sheet as well. But looking at NHL wise, we have a couple of good ones. Over 2.5 shots on goal, -140 here for Michael. And then Cody Glass, -138 to get over 1.5 shots on goal. Pretty decent numbers that we are getting there. And so if we look at it, like this is a pretty good game log that I like to see. Throughout the last 5 has been over. One of the ones that wasn't over was 2 shots on goal, and then against Philly, 1 shot on goal. But for the most part, not terrible. And then Cody Glass forward has been over shots on goal, 4 straight games. That's pretty appealing. So I can see why we're getting favorable odds there as well. Now let's go ahead and switch up and get into NBA. So NBA wise, we are getting one favorable prop. That'd be Jalen Williams over 5.5 rebounds. And personally, I don't really get this. I know it's a matchup against Utah, and Utah is very banged up today. I'm actually curious about the game over and under here. Okay, so not too crazy, high scoring game. But if we just scroll down and look at Jalen Williams' average rebounds, we can see that on the season, he really doesn't average that much. 4.4 rebounds on the season is not that much. Okay, and the minutes aren't like too crazy. Yes, projected to get 34.5. I don't know if that's because Dort is currently questionable, if like the data is expecting because Dort's out for Jalen Williams to get more minutes, or if it's because the game is kind of projected to stay close and the Thunder are projected to win. And obviously they're playing for that play-in spot or even like an 8 seed. I believe they can still get the 8 seed. Anyways, they are playing for a playoff spot. So maybe they're just, the day is thinking that, oh, he's going to get more run. I don't really know. But that's one that I don't particularly love, but just want to call it out because we are getting favorable odds. Again, if we just bet favorable odds on average, it'll hit enough for us to be profitable in the long term. If you guys are curious about that, I do have a couple of like how-to videos for PrizePicks that are out on the channel. But yeah, just looking at it, like we aren't getting that many like great props as a whole. Like this one for SGA over points is fine. We can see the average sportsbook line has it bumped up a little bit higher in our favor at minus 127. Like that's decent. Let's look at some other prop line differences there. Like we see Wagner, we're getting a full point difference in terms of points and assists and points and rebounds. And then they are kind of saying that the over is not as favored as the under for those ones. But still, we can see a full point difference. We can see that's kind of in our favor there. And then SGA again, points and assists. So Vegas kind of thinks SGA is going to score more points. And then the one that I think I like the most is going to be Branham over points, rebounds, and assists. Now, maybe we'll be able to do fantasy score as the day progresses. I'm not sure. Obviously, we don't have that out just yet. But looking at it, to me, this is probably the best prop that we're getting on the day. And why is that? Well, that's because the Spurs could be without Keldon Johnson. We already know they're going to be without Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sochan, and Devonta Graham and Doug McDermott are the two kind of biggest ones. Now, maybe if Langford is active, that could change some stuff. Like that's the biggest issue that we have with DFS right now, NBA DFS right now, is that one little player like that, for instance, with Westbrook last night, if Eric Gordon being active shifted a little bit of the minutes. So if, Langford is active, maybe that shifts the amount of minutes that Branham gets, and maybe he only gets 27 minutes. That might not seem like much, but it could be the difference between him getting the over and him not getting the over. Okay. Like 4 more minutes, that can add up. 3 more minutes, that can add up. Now, this is a nice matchup going against Portland, a matchup that I think he should be able to play well against. And if we pull this up, we can see he's been over it the last 4 games. And really that's because he's been very productive shooting the basketball. So, he could have a cold night shooting and not get there. But I would say more times than not, on average, in this specific situation that we have right now, where they're very banged up, he should be able to get there. And if I pull up the per 36 numbers, it's not that great in favor of him. Like only averages 14.8 points per 36. And this is going to be with Vassell, Sochan, Graham, and Doug McDermott off the court. If Keldon Johnson is also out, that's going to help him out as well. But with those 4 players off the court, he averages 14.8 points per 36, 4.3 rebounds, and 3.1 assists. So it is tight there, but we are getting a decent edge there. And just lately, he stepped up a little bit more. And if Keldon Johnson's out, that's going to help him out as well. So with Keldon Johnson out, he has the most minutes for one in that full sample size. So with those 5 players out, averages 18.6 points per 36, 3.1 rebounds, and then 2.9 assists. So we can see the difference there. Like this becomes a much better prop if Keldon Johnson is out. Now let's just pull it up. He is questionable. Like what's the point of the Spurs playing him? That's my biggest question. So to me, this bet is really, it's one that can still hit, but if Keldon Johnson is out, it increases the likelihood of it hitting. And then for what it's worth, I do think Zach Collins is still pretty low. And this is going to be a game that I think we're going to have the potential to game stack depending on which other props come out, because Zach Collins has been someone that's been going off. Now we have a very small sample size for this, but in games with, let's say, Keldon Johnson, Vassell, Sochan, Graham, and McDermott out, it's about an 80-minute sample size. He averages 21.1 points, 10.3 rebounds, and 5.6 assists per 36 with those players off the court. Now, the thing with the Spurs we know basically none of them are going to get 36 minutes. Like, we're going to be lucky to get 31 minutes. Now, Zach Collins, the last slate, oh, that was painful. He fouled out, and he was well on his way to getting his over there. And so if we look at his game log, really the games where he's not getting the over here is literally games in which he doesn't get the minutes. There's only like one dud that he's had in there besides that. So as long as the minutes are there, which against Portland, let's check this game over and under, should be there. It's not going to be a blowout. And like, I'm not really worried about any backups from Portland getting into foul trouble. To me, these 2 Spurs ones are the best ones that we have out there on the day thus far. Obviously, I hope that changes because I want to try to stack this game. I think there's going to be a good stacking opportunity there. And then for what it's worth, I could see a path in which we are chasing just the Orlando Magic starters in some capacity, because they are going to be going against Cleveland and their backups. If we look at that game, it's crazy, right? Like all the starters are out for Cleveland. And the Cavs are only 8.5-point dogs. Like they're running out Ricky Rubio, Danny Green, and Robin Lopez. It's kind of crazy to me. So it really just depends on the props that we get there. But I would say Cleveland could present some good stacking opportunities as well. And I would say all these Magic's players should be able to get there in more favorable matchups, or at least 3 out of the 4. It could be a situation like the Pacers yesterday where, you know, one of the 3 sell and we don't get there. If I had to choose, you guys know I've been on Wagner a lot recently. Just been playing pretty well. Seems like a low number against Cleveland. And then probably Banchero. But like I said, tight board. We just don't have that many props out there just yet. And I am curious, we might get a situation with Utah where we might be able to stack. I'm looking to see what the Horton Tucker props are for today. And if it's anything like this line that's out there right now on DraftKings Sportsbook, it might be a stay away. 37.5 seems kind of high, but his per 36 numbers with all those players off the court has been great. And so the players that are projected to sit, Marketing, that's huge. Kessler, Clarkson, and Colin Sexton. My worry the last game was that Sexton was going to be active. Thus, the role that Horton Tucker had been in recently might drop off. But nope, Sexton only played 7 minutes because I believe he got injured. And so with that, Horton Tucker has just been going off. He has the most minutes with those 4 players off the court, averages 24.4 points per 36, 5.9 rebounds, 6.5 assists. And that's the thing, the minutes have been there. As long as this game stays close, and it's kind of projected to be, it's projected to be a high scoring game, then he should be able to get the over. And then if we're trying to stack, we could go someone with Okachai. I don't know if I got that right just yet. It's not rolling off the tongue, but he's someone we could potentially look at as well. You look at his per 36 numbers, about 3.4 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and 14.9 points per 36. So right is borderline there if he's going to be good or not. Kelly Olynyk, I'm curious to see what prop we get as well for him, but obviously we just don't have those out just yet. So, you know, I wish I could give more. Like I think Skylar Mays is going to be a great, let's just talk about the props I'm looking for. And like yesterday I was saying, you know, Jalen Duren is going to be a good prop if they come out with one, because I thought they would prop him basically the exact same as James Wiseman. They actually pumped him up. They jacked up Duren's prop. So it's tough to really give this advice without actually seeing the board. But let's just talk through it just in case we do get favorable ones, because like the Jaren Jackson one, that one was simply way too low. Got news that Ja Morant was out. We didn't have the board populated just yet. Jaren Jackson's fantasy score came out 35.5. That was just like, okay, we're doing that. So I just want to give you guys that information to use. And so my thing with Cleveland, it's like, how many minutes are these veterans going to get? Ricky Rubio, NATO, is he going to get a lot of minutes? Sam Merle, former Buck, you know, he's someone that can, you know, shoot threes. Is he really going to do that? I don't know. Osman's probably the one player we're defaulting to. We have seen him in this situation a couple of times thus far this season, and he's been able to go off. This could be one of those ones, though, where maybe because I'm talking up and maybe someone else is talking him up, that he eventually gets like really jacked up and then we can't bet on him. And then Mobley as well. Like I think this is going to be my favorite one on the day. If he gets 25 minutes, he should be able to really go off, especially against Orlando, which is a soft matchup. So I'm not sure if we're going to get these props, but they'd be ones I would want to attack and chase. Then lastly, for Portland, with how banged up they are, right? They are so banged up. The one player that we can like predict is going to get minutes is going to be Skylar Mays, who lately has been going off 3 straight games of over 30 minutes. And we have seen the shot attempts kind of go up each game as well, from 8, 9 to 16 last game. If he's going to be continuing to shoot the ball that much, that's going to be crazy. And we can see he is an assist machine as well. So I think we're probably, it's just tough to say what the prop lines are going to be for these guys, especially because we're not getting those for DraftKings Sportsbook just yet. It's just, they're kind of on my watch list. And so for now, I do like Zach Collins and Branham. Those are my 2 favorite ones. But today does seem like another stacking day in NBA. And, you know, maybe I'll potentially be able to come out with an afternoon video. I'm not really sure to do the updates as they come in. But as it says right now, we just don't have enough. So like the bet of the day, I'm just not going to give any of those out just yet. I do want to point out some PGA props though real quick to finish the video. Not sure how many of you guys watched like the Netflix Full Swing documentary or know anything about like the Live versus PGA Tour, but PrizePicks is currently trying to make us bet PGA versus Live, which is kind of fun to me. This one's going to go live, Tiger versus Phil. We've got Scotty versus DJ. Rom versus Cameron Smith. And the thing is, like, the PGA Tour should all like be heavily favored in these ones. So it'd be kind of interesting to see if those work out. Rory versus Brooks. You would think Rory would be able to dominate there. And then continuing on, let's see, we had a couple more. Mito versus Max Homa. Max Homa is one of the best players in the world right now, so you would think he'd be able to beat him. Colin Morikawa versus HV3. You would think Morikawa would be able to beat him. Xander versus Bryson. That one's going to go live, but you'd think he'd be able to beat him. Finau versus Neiman. You think you'd be able to beat him. Like, there's so many of these out there. It's just kind of fun. So I just want to call it out. Fun props there. But that's all for today's video. I wish I could give you guys like some like actual bets, but I think the information I gave is going to be enough to use throughout the day once we do get those props. I have no idea when those props are going to come out. Yesterday's video, I had to wait until 1:30 to come out with it. I didn't like doing that. And then literally an hour and a half later, the board was already different. So it might be a situation in which I start to do more early videos, at least for the end of the season, and then another afternoon video. We'll see. Obviously, I don't control when the props come out. I don't control when the injury news comes out. Kind of got to take it as it is when the video comes out. All right, thanks for watching this. Have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing.